Hi, I'm Tim Macpherson, publisher of Saltwater Boat Angling, with another video demonstration about marine electronics, following on from my recent program showing how navionics charts work on Lowrance units. And today I'm talking to Craig Davis, one of the UK sales managers for Navico in the UK, and we're going to show you the new Elite fishing system and some of its features. Plus, we're going to give you an insight into some exciting new technology, Active Target. And I've seen this in action a few times, and it really is quite exciting stuff. So welcome, Craig. Nice, thank you for joining us. Just to sort of start off with, really, Sonar technology in particular has come on a huge amount in the last, just the last few years, really, compared to what we were doing and using, in the early 2000s. Can you just give us a little insight into how this tech has changed and what it means for anglers?
Yeah, indeed. I think certainly in the last 5 years, it's changed quite dramatically. I think what we've seen is a lot of the commercial applications that there were for sonar, with things like on side imaging and the high resolution stuff, has slowly started to become scaled down and become more cost efficient for it to be then brought into the recreational market. And we've had massive improvements in the world of side imaging, down imaging. Even the live sonar now that's starting to come in is giving that almost like video-like sort of view of the seabed, which is all stuff that you see a lot of the diving companies in commercial applications using and have been for quite some time, and things like submersibles as well. So it really is changing, and very quickly. And I think for the fishing guys, it's great, because it's just, some guys say it's cheating, some guys say the fish don't stand a chance, but you still got to try and catch the fish. You still got to try and get them to go for the bait or for the lure. And really, I think it just, if you're sort of stuck for time and you're looking to just have a better uptake and a better catch rate, I think it does help to just sort of understand maybe the topography of the bottom, and just gives you that much quicker and better understanding of the grounds that you're fishing a lot of the time, just to give you that sort of extra little chance that you might actually catch. Because how many times have we been out and blanked on a day when you can see the fish are there? It's
yeah. What do you mean? So I mean, there are lots to do. You mentioned some sonar types, the side scan, the down scan, the live stuff. So what are the differences between the usages of these and sort of different modes? Can you just explain that in a little bit of detail for us?
Yeah, so I mean, nowadays it can get very confusing, because we've got all these different terminologies, which are, in essence, that it's still sonar, but it's really down to the quality of the image you're seeing, and also the type of view that you're getting from them. So there is sort of your standard 2D fish finders, which everybody's used to seeing and working with, and that's probably still the go-to product for when it comes to trying to find fish in deeper depths of water and things like that. So we have the 2D sonars have also changed. So we're now using technology that everybody hears called chirp, and what that sort of allowed, sort of the improvements that's brought into that 2D sonar world, is just really the separation of the targets and the fish that they see on that image. And being able to see sort of the fish they're holding close to the ground, you get that real sort of clear target separation. So that tends to be what a lot of guys are still going to be most dependent on. You've then got, with the side imaging was sort of the next evolution in the sonar world, and when that came in, it just really opens your eyes and to be able to see areas of maybe things like reefs and wrecks and things in that sort of overhead view, with the real high resolution imagery as well. So it just makes being able to understand where some of the habitats these fish are going to be hiding out in, again, just giving you that better insight into what's below you. But it's constantly evolving. I mean, with the world of going the way it is, with having with us as manufacturers bringing in the live sonar, sort of, it really speeds up that sort of that time it takes to study the ground that you want to fish. You're not having to drift certain areas over and over again to try and figure out where the fish are. It makes that day a little bit more enjoyable.
And of course, when you're working with charts as well, you're sort of matching charts with what you're seeing on the bottom.
That's it. Yeah. So I mean, predominantly you roll the clocks back a bit. You depending on watching the 2D sonar screen and then looking at your chart plotter on the other, or even just on a paper chart, figuring out where the wreck was, trying to figure out where the tide was, and then just watching to see that you've got that drift perfect. So looking on the fish on the screen, waiting to see if it started to appear on the screen. Now you can sort of, with Lowrance, for example, we have the ability to actually overlay the side imaging onto the chart. So you have what we call structure overlay. So you can actually go and pass where the wrecks are charted, and then actually see the side scan image of the seabed where that wreck is, so you can see how broken up it is. And we then have things like the charting itself has now taken a lot of this high resolution sonar data and actually created that as a chart view. So the CMAP reveal stuff.
Yes.
Which is like, I mean, I the first time I used that out in the water, I was just like amazed at the level of detail. You could see the wrecks and how broken up they were on the seabed. And again, that's all really useful information, which you would have probably spent half a day just trying to figure that out, setting up a drift. So with this evolution of the sonar stuff, as well as also allowed manufacturers to improve on the charting. So there's all these sort of high resolution survey, bathymetric surveys that go on, and that data is now being brought into the charting. So with CMAP, you have the CMAP reveal data now, which is the day sort of I saw that for the first time, I was amazed. It's almost like somebody's pulled a plug on the ocean, the level of detail you can see.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you can see all the drop-offs, all of exactly sort of the detail of the rocks that are around those areas, the wrecks as well, being able to see sort of how broken up a wreck is and how the tide affects the sand and the silt around the wrecks as well.
Awesome. Just moving on to the actual Lowrance units themselves, there's three sort of brands, I suppose: Reveal, Elite, and HGS. I mean, we're going to talk about Elite, aren't we, today? But just what are the differences between those three types of unit and what they're for?
Yeah, so I mean, it's so we sort of start off at the bottom of the range with the hook Reveal unit. It's an entry-level price point, but you've got sort of some quite top-level sonar performance in there. You've got side imaging, you've got down scan, you've got chirp in there. They're very good on price, but the performance from them is really good. The screen quality they've got very good sort of resolution and sunlight readability. So they're really good as a little standalone sort of plotter fish finder combination. And then for those that really want the sort of top end, they want big screens, they want to be able to run autopilot and everything like that. That's where the HGS comes in. That's our sort of top end, full hybrid touchscreen. So you've got full keypad use plus full touchscreen use. They've got sort of an all-weather touchscreen with what we call SolarMax HD screens. So they're up to sort of like a 60-degree viewing angle, but you've got super clear visibility with polarized sunglasses and everything. So is then sort of our mid-range model, and that's really, I think it's a new model. The Elite FS is, and it's sort of slowly becoming quite a flagship model, just because, again, the price point with the features it's got you've got the ability to run the chirp, the side imaging, down scan, but also adding in it's compatible with the new Active Target live sonar as well. And it can it'll also take inputs from things like radar. So for the guys that are maybe coastal and going a little bit further afield, it's a quite attractively priced product with some very feature-rich sonar capabilities, but with the ability to expand the system because you've got the full sort of networking and radar, which we'll talk through in a bit with those.
Can you just give us an idea why you would choose that for your boat and what kind of, I mean, obviously the difference between HGS and Elite sounds to me, basically probably price, is it? I don't know. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing now with the technology that's obviously spilling down into sort of the lower models in the range. Everybody sort of finds it hard. Why would you jump up to the sort of the top end? But yeah, the HDS is sort of the advantages with the HDS still are the fact that you've got those larger screens, capabilities of 12 and 16s. It does have it has more sonar capability in that it can drive more chirp. You can have sort of twin chirp transducers running off the back of it as well. So for those guys that are really sort of looking at monitoring multiple frequencies on the 2D sonar, that's an added benefit there. And then the ability to drive sort of the big radars as well, like the open array radars. That's the main differences. But I think if you were sort of the target market for the elite FS guys, it's probably those sort of, again, that sort of trailer boat, sort of like your Warrior and Mary Fisher type boats. So it will run our active imaging, which is a very high resolution sonar. In fact, we actually do the 7 and the 9-inch elites come with a bundle of those, which include our 3-in-1 active imaging transducer. So that's one transducer that you're having to mount on the back of the boat, which is giving you your downscale very high resolution. Because what we found was everybody's trying to get this better resolution, and it's all about having the clearest images. But to do that, they've had to go up in the frequency that they run.
Yeah.
Whereas what we did with the active imaging is we kept the 455 and the 800 kilohertz for the side imaging and down scan, but we did some very clever things with the hardware that we use in those transducers, and we were able to get just as clear images as some of these guys that are running the 1200 kilohertz.
Right.
But we're actually winning because we can still have double the depth, sort of the side view, and double the down scan depth capabilities that they have.
That's really useful.
It also opens the gate. It might be somebody's thinking about, at the moment I've got the budget for one screen, but later on down the line I want to be expanding the system. Because you've got the full network abilities with that, you can connect an engine into the screen. So if people want to monitor things like the fuel consumptions and engine data, they can do that through the screen on that. It features the Mercury vessel view, so it actually has dedicated software for Mercury engines built in. Everything going through the screen, which is another where things are advanced in the sort of the MFD world.
Space saving for a smaller boat, it makes quite a difference. I mean, I've got quite a small console space on my radar, so
and also because obviously the units have got so much sonar technology. Once you start splitting the screens up, you're very limited on a 7-inch screen, which used to be a big screen. You very quickly run out of space and visibility when you start splitting the sonar. On the Elite, you can split the screen 4 ways if you want to, and you can have your side scan, chirp, down scan, and active imaging all on one screen.
Just on the screen size for the Elite, what screen sizes are there again?
So in the Elite, we have a 7-inch and a 9-inch. Now, what you do have is you can obviously daisy chain network those screens together, so you can then have them sharing the chart and sonar between them, and also have the radar dome, the Lowrance radar domes, the Halo domes connected in as well. So you can start to build a bigger network.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, in terms of laying it out on a, I know we have a diagram that you've got.
We've got a couple of examples where we've put together some example network layouts of what you might do with the Elite. So you'll see that we have there's a sort of some standalone options where you might have one or two units on the boat and with their own individual transducers for non-network displays. And then we move into actually networking, so where you have 2 screens but one transducer plugged into one. What that allows you to do is when you network them with the Ethernet network, it shares the sonar between them. You can have one chart card in one screen, and that's shared between both.
So you can have chart and sonar on 2 different units. They're networked together and they work together.
Yeah, and they work independently, so they're not mirroring what the other one's showing. You can have different screens showing on both. So you might have a screen in the cockpit that's showing you your sonar and your chart, and then on the screen in the wheelhouse, you've just got your full screen chart showing in there for when you're cruising around. And then also you can start adding in things. So the nice thing with the Elites is if you think, actually, I could do with a 12-inch screen, there's nothing stopping you networking it to a HDS. So you can intermix the 2 models.
Oh, right. Okay, that's cool. You don't need
it might be you're running the bigger 12-inch screens in the wheelhouse, but you just want something a bit more sort of compact to maybe hang from a coach roof out in the cockpit, and that's where you could fit like a 7-inch Elite or a 9-inch Elite.
What some people like to do is stick in a. I mean, there was one boat where he's got them networked, and there's one in the cabin, one on the deck. I know Ross Honey, whose boat I went out on with the HCS units, he's got 3 units set up like that. But also, some people like on the stern, don't they? The back end of the boat facing, because then you've got one. You don't have to keep turning around to have a look at what you're.
That's it. Yeah, and especially like with some of the wheelhouse boats as well. Sometimes it's quite hard to be trying to peer in through the door, especially if you're sort of in a bit of a swell on the day. So having that flexibility to mount something either on a bracket or even some of these sort of marine pods that you can get now for mounting units in, so they're nice and secure, just makes life a lot easier.
So good. Okay. So in terms of, let's talk about transducers now, because obviously we know how to network.
Probably transducers is the most complicated bit, and it sometimes can be the mistake that a lot of people make, is choosing the wrong transducer for their boat. So I mean, we see it a lot of people sort of they ring up and go, I can't get these great sonar images, my sonar's rubbish on the unit, and probably 90% of the time it is down to a poorly installed transducer. So it might be they've selected the wrong transducer style for the type of boat it is. It might be that they've just not actually installed it quite properly at the right angle, and the transducer's getting a lot of cavitation and things like that.
Well, there's some examples here we're showing now. They're crackers. I mean,
Yeah, we get some quite interesting calls from customers that have sort of gone at it themselves and done their own installs and probably not looked at the manual properly. So we have the 4 main mounting styles are, there's transom mount. Some manufacturers, we call them skimmer transducers, but that's a transom mount. You have in-hull transducers, which is where you bond it inside the hull of the boat.
One of those,
and then you have through hull, which is one where it involves cutting a hole through the bottom of the transducer, is actually going straight through the bottom of the boat. And then also there's the tilted element through hulls. So for boats where you have very steep V hulls, because a lot of people also forget that transducer needs to be, it's firing a signal straight down, so it's looking for the signal to come straight back up. If it's mounted at an angle, it's going to go down and bounce off, so you're not going to get a very good return. So I mean, most outboard boats, you would probably look at fitting either a transom mount or an in-hull mounted transducer to them. The mistake a lot of people make with transom mount transducers, they mount them too high up. Really what you're looking for is where you've got the baseline of the hull. You just want the transducer to be sitting sort of level, but so that it does sit just below the base of the hull.
So just moving on, so just in terms of the Elite, the sonar options on the Elite units are what? I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but presumably they've got the whole gamut, haven't they, from active target right through to basic 2D, have they? Or...
Yes, yeah. So I mean, we do supply the Elites. There is certain part numbers of the Elite which we supply with the transducer in the box. So we do one that comes with what we call our HDI transducer, which gives you just your 2D chirp and your down scan.
Yeah.
And then we do one that comes with the Elite, the active imaging 3-in-1 transducer. So that gives you side scan, down scan, and chirp. So basically the equivalent of 3 transducers all molded into one. So those are supplied in the box. If you need to, if they want to be running a bigger, more powerful chirp transducer, then you can do that as well. So it will drive up to a 1 kilowatt chirp transducer.
Okay.
You can. So some guys might just run the 2D ones, and then you can add, because you've got the Ethernet capability, you can add the new Active Target as well, which will then open up the whole world of live sonar, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that people sort of also need to get sort of confused about is with transducers is between the frequency and the power that they need, because basically you see that, what I sort of point out, most of the sort of for the UK, mostly coastal fishing, the transducers that's supplied in general are more than adequate depth capability wise. So most transducers will run at sort of 600 watt power. And to put it in sort of a layman's term, the more you go up in power, the deeper the performance becomes.
Right.
So most transducers run around at that sort of 600 watt mark, but you then hear some guys will run these big 1 kilowatt and 2 kilowatt transducers. Now, you go up in power, you also go up in price. I mean, a 1 kilowatt transducer probably averages out at about £1,000 mark.
Okay.
But that's where you're getting that very deep water performance, and they're able to maintain the sort of the very high resolution in the deeper water.
Yeah. Okay.
And then as you go up in frequency, that's how the image gets clearer. So a standard 2D sonar will work at sort of 50 and 200.
Yeah.
But then when we move into these higher resolution sort of side imaging and down imaging, that's where they're running the sort of the 455 or the 800 kilohertz, and that's how they get those clearer images. But they're not as the sacrifice is they don't have the depth performance.
Right.
That's one thing.
Power is about the voltage is about the depth you can see down to, and the frequency is about the clarity of the image. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So frequency gives you the better clarity, but also as you change through the frequencies, the cone angle will change as well. So you'll have a much wider beam on some of the sort of lower frequency ones.
So, I mean, you mentioned Active Target, and that's something that, as I said earlier, very exciting. Let's just talk about that. So, what is it exactly? Can you just, as opposed to normal sonar? Yeah.
So Active Target is so if you're comparing Active Target with the traditional sort of down scan and side scan and chirp, those sonars almost work as you're looking. The view you're looking at there is what we call like almost a picture in time.
Right.
So the right hand side of the screen on your 2D sonar is a shot of what's directly below the boat, and then so it's all ground that you've traveled over already, so it's historical information. With Active Target, what you're seeing is live on the screen right there, right then. So you're able to see pretty much, it's almost like shining a torch under the water and it lighting up the screen, and wherever you're pointing that torch is you're looking at as almost like a video of what's below you. So Active Target gives you very good resolution, but in that live view. So you can see the fish swimming around on the screen. You can see the definition of the structures and the fish moving around within those structures. It really is, it's an amazing bit of kit. I mean, we've done some tests where we've had people, like a guy jump in the water and you can see his legs kicking about on the screen.
I mean, we've done this with Active Target in the marina, actually, when we came back from one of the test runs on Ross Honey's boat, and we could see the knot and the fish, little shoal of fish turning up and that kind of stuff. So some of the examples that we're showing here, you can see the resolution. So the hardware itself is it's a separate box that powers so you have a separate module for Active Target that plugs into the screens, and then a dedicated transducer for it. So the transducer can be mounted in a couple of ways. So for sort of like the freshwater fishing markets, a lot of guys tend to mount them on a pole over the side, or which they can then rotate around, or they mount it on their sort of bow-mounted electric motors, the trolling motors. And then they just change the direction. So there's 3 different views that you can achieve with Active Target, all just and they're achieved just by changing the angle that the transducer is mounted at. So the transducer's on a really nice sort of trunnion type setup where you can just undo the trunnion knob and just physically change the orientation of the transducer. So we have a forward view, we have a down view, and then we have a scout view. So the forward view sort of gives you that downwards facing view, but looking out in front of you, so you can look almost quite useful for being able to point the transducer in different directions, maybe towards a wreck or a reef, and then being able to cast your lure out and actually watch the lure drop through the water column and then come back towards you and see how the fish react. The down view is a very similar view to as you'd be used to seeing on your down scan and your 2D sonars. So it's that straight down what's below you view, but again in that live perspective. And then the scout view is quite an interesting one. It's something which I found quite an interesting one to use
especially on the coastal stuff, it's giving you that overhead view of the seabed, but looking out in a sort of a cone in front of you. So you can actually see all the structure from above, and then how the fish are swimming around in there. It's been quite interesting to see. We've seen it allows you to quickly see how active the fish are, how responsive they are to your bait or your lure if you're lure fishing. But also it gives you another way to try and understand what the grounds are like that you're fishing. So you can have a look at the wrecks or the reefs and see what the sort of the seabed looks like there.
Just one thing that I'm always interested in, I know that a lot of this technology, as far as my perception is, it's developed in America particularly, isn't it? Initially, so they test these things in very clear water systems.
Yes.
Now, the English Channel, where I fish down here in Sussex, is pretty mucky, particularly this time of year where we have the May plankton die-off that kind of coats everything. How does that affect the clarity of Active Target? Because presumably, does it make any difference? Does it distort it? And how deep do you go with it?
The Active Target side of stuff, you'd probably be able to pick stuff like that. You'd see the clouds of it drifting in the water column. So, I mean, it's been very interesting seeing with the take-up of Active Target for sea fishing. Because a lot of sonar products get developed for the US markets because the fishing market's so big there. But we've been astounded actually with the performance of Active Target in saltwater. You are still getting some real sort of good clear images. I mean, I would expect it to certainly be good for sort of the 50-foot depths for around the coast and stuff like that.
Yeah. It sounds really, really. I'm really looking forward to going out in various boats that I know have got this and seeing it in a bit of detail, actually in a live fishing set.
I mean, one thing that we've worked on with our current ranges is really simplifying the menu structures and things like that. And because we're all used to it on our tablets and phones now. And
just to finish off. In terms of cost for both the Elite systems and the Active Target, what range of cost are we talking about, just for buying and the units and the transducers?
So the Elites, so the Elite FS with the transducer included in the box, so with the active imaging 3-in-1 transducer. So the retail price on that is about £900 thereabouts, and then your Active Target system is about the £1,100 mark, something like that.
So it's about £2,000 for the whole lot. If the Elite and the Active together, you're going to spend about £2,000, which is actually pretty reasonable for. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Craig. That's
no problem.
And
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that I think, as I said earlier, it's really important. A lot of people buy these products, not quite sure how to use them, and what we're trying to do is to show people how these things can work and what the benefits are.